Hello, welcome to lesson 2.5 Scatterplots and Lines of Regression. You do need a graphing calculator for this lesson, so make sure you've got your graphing calculator handy. If you don't, pause the video and locate that handy dandy tool. So we're going to talk about bivariate data, which is just data with two variables, such as years and number of visitors. So just two different variables. Scatter plot or dot plot is ordered pairs in a coordinate plane. So we see some examples down here. Correlation, for example, right here we have a strong positive correlation. This one going down, we have a strong or a weak negative correlation because they're kind of spread out. So whenever it's real close together, that's when it's strong. Whenever they're a little bit more spread out, it's weaker. And then we can kind of see the direction of the data. So going up from left to right is positive, going down from left to right is negative. And then just random, no real relative correlation here at the end where it's just kind of no pattern. So let's do our first example. First step is going to be to plot these points. So that's what I did. I went to 0, went up to 18. So go ahead and plot these points. And you can always pause and then or rewind if I go too fast for you. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a line of best fit. So meaning we're going to try and fit that data the best way that we can, meaning hitting a couple of those points, getting as close as we can to them. So what we're going to do next is after we put that line in there, we're going to pick 2 points, that are on that line. So looks like this one's not quite, but it's really close. I kind of messed my line up a little bit there. So I'm going to use that point, and I'm going to use this point down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to use those 2 points, and I'm going to come up with that line equation for that line right there. So let's go ahead and do that. This should be a review from our last session. So first step is going to be to find slope. Hello there. So finding slope is going to be using those 2 points. So we are going to take, and I'll do it over here. M is equal to my second y, which is 13, minus my first y, which is 18, or my second x, 15, minus 3. And if you need to write those coordinates out to label them, minus. And then we end up with negative 5 over subtracting, there we go, 12. So there's my slope. Let's come over here and finish finding the equation for that line. So y minus, and I'm using my coordinates here, x1 and y1. So minus 18 equals, my slope was negative 5 over 12. And x minus my x1, which was 3. So distributing, and then we get, there we go, 15 over 12, positive. And then we're going to add 18. Finish getting that equation. So y equals negative 5/12 x plus, and I'm just going to change it to decimal, 19.25 if I add those two together. So we used 2 ordered pairs and wrote a prediction equation. Let's talk about the correlation here. So as you can see, they're pretty close together. So it's a strong correlation, and since it's going down, it would be negative. So we're going to put strong negative correlation as that description. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a prediction about the percent of students that will send the application to 2 colleges in 2010. So we're going to use the equation from part B, this one right here, and we are predicting in 2010. So we need to figure out what we're plugging in for x. So if we started in 85 and we went from 85 to 2010, how many years have passed? I really should put 19 and 2010. So how many years have passed? Well, that would be 25 years. So if 25 years have passed, then that's my x. So that's the number I'm going to plug in to figure out that prediction. So let's go ahead and plug that in and see what we get. Using that equation, 25 for x plus 19.25, and then simplify. And we would get 8.83 for an answer, and that's the percent of students. How accurate is this prediction? Well, this fit is just approximate. So really, our prediction may not be very accurate because really that line is just kind of fitting the data approximately. So fit is approximate. So the prediction may not be accurate. It's a nice idea, better than just taking a random guess, but it may not be a whole lot accurate. All right, let's go ahead and do this on the calculator. So pull your calculator out. We have this data here, so there's no actually plotting of it, no actually drawing a line on by yourself. So what we're going to do, I'm going to split my screen here, and then I'll get my calculator over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this data in. So I'm going to have my data right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Stat button, and I have my list of the buttons I'm pushing. We want to edit, so we're going to hit Enter. And we have lists. So we're going to put the years in list 1 and then in list 2, the income. So we're just going to go ahead and type these in. So go ahead and do that on yours because you definitely want to practice. Hit Enter and it'll go to the next line. So 1980, Enter, 1985, and so forth. Alright, so now that you have list 1 plugged in, we're going to just arrow over and we're going to start plugging in list 2. So go ahead and begin typing all of those in and enter, and then it will take you to the next line and continue until all those incomes are plugged in. Alright, so once you've got both of those plugged into each list, we're going to go to the Stat Plot button. So it's kind of that second and then y equals button. And then we're going to hit Enter to go to the first plot. And we want to turn it on, so when it's blinking there, we're going to hit Enter. And mine looks a little bit different since it's a newer version, but most of the buttons are still similar. And making sure that we have our dots, and then we have list 1 is the X list, list 2 is the Y list, and most of that's already filled in for you. So we can just move on from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for that equation for that line. So we're going to go to the Stat button, back where we were, and we're going to go over once to calculate, and we're going to go down to number 4, or you can just hit the number 4 button. We'll scroll down, and we are going to see that it says list 1, list 2, and then we want to store it. So if you have an older calculator, I could show that. If you have a different version and can't find things, make sure to make a note of at what point you may need assistance. So what we're going to do is we want this to store it in our graph. So how we get it to do that is we're going to go and hit the vars button, and it's going to be the same for each calculator. And we're going to go over to the Y vars, and it's that first option. So it might say, if you have an older calculator, Y1, which is what you want, enter, and then enter again. So it puts the Y1 in the store. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to graph. So we're going to hit the graph button. And since we turn that stat plot on, it should graph. Well, if we don't see anything, it's because our zooming is not correct. So what you're going to do is hit zoom 9. So hit the zoom button, and you could just type the 9, or you can scroll down to the 9. So there's our data points. And then, where's our line? Nope, it didn't do it. Let's go back. Stat plot. It happens. Calculate. Linear regression. I don't think I hit the enter button, did I? So going down. All right, stat, calculate. Oops, I went vars. Sorry, ignore. Let's go back to the calculate. All right, so back to this step and the vars button to put our Y1 in, function, There we go. All right, now we make sure to go down to the calculate and hit the enter button. There it goes. All right. So this is actually our answer or our equation. Now notice I don't have an R, and that's something that you want to have. So how do you fix that if you don't have an R value listed here? So what we do is we go to the second catalog button, and we're going to go all the way down to the diagnostic. So you're going to just keep scrolling until you get to the diagnostic on. And there is a quicker way to do it, but since I've already showed you a lot of buttons, I'm just going to scroll. So you might have to rewatch. We'll practice in class. There we go, diagnostic on, enter. So now that the diagnostic is on, we can go back to that calculate. So stat, over, number 4, repeat again. Vars, y-vars, enter, enter. Calculate this time. Make sure you hit that calculate button. And now we have our, no, where is it? All right, now there it is. So what ended up having to happen was you had to turn it off after you have turned that diagnostic on, and then repeat it again. It takes a second for it to show those R values after you've turned that diagnostic on. So make sure that you have gone to catalog, so the second catalog button, and then turn that diagnostic on. When you hit enter, it should say done, and then go back through those steps. So calculators can be tricky sometimes. Here is our answer now. So our equation is just going to be, it gives it to you right there. So we're just going to retype that. So it's y equals, and then we're going to use our a over here is our slope in a sense. So 1,349 point, and we'll just do 87, we'll round, x minus 2650768.34. So there is our equation for our line given to us right there. We didn't have to graph anything, we just plugged it into our calculator. So this R value we now have after turning off on our diagnostic, and we can plug that in. So 0.997. We'll do another rounding. So we want to use just the R value, not the R squared. And then the median. So how do I go ahead and find this without, again, having to graph anything? So hand-wise. So there it is, our points and our line of regression in there. So I want to be able to look and see in 2015. So I'm going to need to go up off the graph here. So what we're going to do is hit the, we're going to have to zoom out a little bit. And then we're going to follow our line. Now let's hit the trace button. That will kind of let us follow our points. And then we can kind of, oh, let's zoom out a little more. So we're trying to go up past those points to get a prediction there. So we're at 2,000, oh, we're still not far. Let's zoom out again. Make sure our point is up there, so it'll zoom us out up here. Make sure your cursor's up there. Enter. There we go. That's going to give us a much better view. So if you hit the trace button, that's just going to let you trace the points. If you hit the second trace button, first option is value. So if we hit enter, it's going to say what value do you want x to be, and that's our years. So 2015. So we're going to type in 2015. Enter. So at 2015, this line that's predicting how many or what's the median income in 2015, and it's giving it to you right there. So that's our answer. So sometimes you have to zoom out and then hit that second trace button, which is really calculate, to type in that value for x that you want. So we would type in our value, 69,220. All right, so last thing we're going to talk about is just 2 vocab: causation, 1 data set, is the direct cause